Becoming an architect requires a particular series of steps, including study, practical experience, and registration. So if becoming an architect is something that you are considering, then stick around and I will take you through the process. I'm Liz Watt, welcome. I create content and resources for architecture students and new practitioners to help you learn faster and easier. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure you subscribe. Today I want to talk about how to become an architect, particularly in Australia. In particular, I'm going to share options for study, then the actual registration process. Let's get started. So getting to the point of practicing as an architect and legally being able to call yourself an architect can honestly take a long time. In most cases, you could expect this process to reasonably take 7 or 8 to 10 years of a lot of hard work and study. If this is something you are seriously considering, here's the process in Australia, which is very similar to many other countries such as the United Kingdom, Canada, or the USA. We'll talk about them at the end. Let's start with study. If you're interested in working as an architect, you'll first need to undertake some serious study. There's no real alternative pathway such as an apprenticeship or internship straight out of school. Depending on the marks you receive at school, you have a couple of study pathways into the profession of architecture. So if your grades are not high enough or you do not meet the entry requirements of a university, you can look at taking an advanced diploma in building design architectural. So this course is generally 2 years full-time or 3.5 to 4 years part-time at a TAFE or university or private provider. It can help you improve your skills and capabilities and develop a portfolio. Some universities offer this option as a pathway into their degree. So if you take this option, check to see how much of this study the university of your choice will consider for entry into their degrees, as this may vary. And it won't always guarantee you entry. At the end of this, you may choose to continue your studies or go directly to work in the following career opportunities. You could become a building designer, an architectural technician, an architectural assistant, a building design assistant, or an architectural draftsperson. You cannot receive an architectural qualification with this study alone. It's kind of a stepping stone, so you might want to look into that. If your grades are high enough and you meet the entry requirements of a university, you can apply to enter a bachelor course straight away. You can find a list of universities offering architectural or related courses in Australia. I'll leave the link in the description. Most universities have 2 parts of study to becoming a graduate in architecture. The first degree is an undergraduate degree of 3 years. Depending on the university, this undergraduate degree may have different names and could be referred to as a Bachelor of Environments or specialising in architecture, a Bachelor of Design specialising or majoring in architecture, a Bachelor of Design Studies, or a Bachelor of Architectural Design. Can be a little bit different. And they do change over time. Depending on the university, this first degree may be a more general multidiscipline degree to include disciplines such as landscape design, interior design, or urban design, or it may just be focused on architecture. So for example, you may be studying a Bachelor of Design with a major in architecture or construction. If you're not sure about architecture and want to explore other options, you may want to choose a more multidisciplined approach. However, note that in industry, some of these courses are not necessarily seen to be as good as the architectural focus courses. So you need to do a little bit of homework and think about what is right for you depending on where you're at. So then after you've completed this, the second degree is an additional 2 years. So there's 5 in total and is generally called a Master of Architecture. Most universities require you to achieve a certain average mark in your first degree to be accepted into the master's degree in the 4th and 5th year. You might want to check this out at the very start of your studies and make sure you're on track if you wish to continue to masters. Some universities will accept a different bachelor's degree with a certain average, but will increase the master's course to maybe 3 years, mainly to ensure you have the foundation skills required. In the past, some schools required you to undertake a year work experience between the 2 degrees, but now they mostly sort of let you go straight through. If you're not sure about architecture at this stage, it may be a good idea to get some work experience before continuing your studies. Many years ago, these degrees were both undergraduate degrees and often referred to as a Bachelor of Design Studies and then a Bachelor of Architecture. Regardless of the name, the industry will recognize your equivalent study from a particular institution at a certain time, regardless of what your degree is called. So if you have any specific questions about studying architecture or selecting an architecture school, please let me know in the comments. Architects become registered in Australia under different legislation or Architects Acts, which are managed by each state in the country. The aim of this legislation is to protect the title architect and provide a framework for practicing architects. So they do vary between states, so you'll need to check this legislation depending on where you live and intend to practice. Unfortunately, this process is not yet national, but this won't necessarily prevent you practicing or working in different states. You can look into extending or transferring your registration once you're registered in one state. Under this legislation, you cannot call yourself an architect unless you are registered, even if you have graduated with a degree. To practice architecture and call yourself an architect in a particular place, you must be registered in that state or territory. In Australia, there is a national standard of competency to become registered as an architect. This competency level is overseen by the Architects Accreditation Council of Australia, or the AACA. I'll leave a link to them in the description. This normally requires a number of years working in the architectural industry after graduation to obtain the relevant range of experience across the design and construction process, as well as a range of different project types. To show your competency level, there's a three-part process once you've obtained the relevant experience. The first is the AACA logbook, which is a record of your practical experience that meet certain capabilities that they prescribe. Then there's the AACA written exam, or Architectural Practice Examination, or APE. And the third step is the AACA interview, which is a panel interview that assesses your knowledge and understanding and ability to apply knowledge in practical situation. So this will normally be 2 to 3 practitioners who will ask you questions about case studies or the project you've worked on and described in your logbook, or maybe hypothetical situations. Those with overseas qualifications or experience may still be able to become registered in Australia with some additional requirements. So you can find more information at the Architects Accreditation Council of Australia website in the description. Architectural registration in Australia is regulated by a board in each state or territory. So once you've been accredited by the AACA, you'll need to register in the state you're practicing. So for example, in the ACT, it's the Australian Capital Territory Architects Board, and their Architects Act is 2004. In New South Wales, it's the New South Wales Architects Registration Board and the Architects Act 2003. And on it goes. Again, I'll leave all those links and details for each state in the description. So many other countries seem to have a similar process that requires specific university study, some practical experience, and then your registration. Canada is the Canadian Architectural Certification Board. In the US, it's the National Council of Architectural Registration Boards, and in the UK, the Architects Registration Board. So as you can see, the process of becoming an architect is a long one, and you could expect to take 7 or 8 to 10 years from the time you start your studies until the time you become registered, if you follow the process straight through. If you take time off along the way to travel or obtain some other relevant experience upon graduation, it could take longer than that. Architecture is a profession and a path that you choose for the long term. It's something that you continue to learn over your entire career. It's not something that you come to know in a matter of months or years or cramming for an exam. But saying that, it can be a rewarding profession that provides many different avenues or pathways for a range of work in the field. So if this seems like something you might enjoy, the only way to find out is to give it a go. If you have any questions or comments about the process of becoming an architect, please let me know in the comments. If you want to know more, then make sure you hit the notification button and consider subscribing to my channel, because I have a ton of content to share to help you learn faster and make studying and practicing architecture so much easier. While you wait for the next episode, make sure you check out some of my other work at archimesh.com. That's everything for today. I hope you found it helpful. Have a great day, and I will see you next time.